We've seen a lot of players come and a lot of players go this all season in the West Virginia football program through the transfer portal. It makes it hard to get a read on what players will really be the key players for the Mountaineers. Well, I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'm going to give you my 5 key players who may make or break West Virginia's football season in 2025. And we're going to have that conversation, so stick around, and we'll do it right after this word from one of my channel sponsors. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident, are fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis around the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. On tap today, we're focusing on West Virginia. We're focusing on the key players going into the 2025 season who I think will have the biggest impact on this team's success. Now, there will be more players added. As a matter of fact, right before I did this show, there were players announced that have committed out of the portal. So some of these players could be big difference makers too. But so far, when you look at the roster and who's on it right now, these are the players I think will make the biggest impact. And let's be real, most of the impact players are probably already on the roster. But let's go ahead and get started. Number 5 on my list, Jaheim White, running back. Now, Jaheim is obviously one of the few returning starters from last year's team who stuck around after the departure of Neil Brown and the entrance of Rich Rod. Now, a lot of people may think that Jaheim should be higher on my list. The reason I don't have him higher is because Rich Rod, I think, can be successful regardless who the running back is. Not saying that that doesn't need to be a good running back, but we've seen throughout his career that Coach Rod has done a really good job developing running backs. They also went out and got a great running back coach from North Carolina who was, coached Omarion Hampton and has coached other great running backs throughout his career at LSU and other places. So, and then they just went out and got Jalen Knighton out of the portal from SMU, who's another stud running back who has contributed at a high level during his career at both the Power 4 and G5 levels. So Jaheim White is not the only good running back on that roster. They obviously have Dior Hubbard still on the roster as well, who's, a redshirt freshman who's expected to have a good year and a good career in Morgantown. But at the end of the day, I think Jaheim White is going to be the number 1 back and the key back for this team. Now, when you look at Jaheim's success, he's obviously ran for over 1,700 yards in his 2 seasons in Morgantown so far, both under Neil Brown. He's averaging right around 6 yards per carry in his career, maybe a little better than that. And, Coach Rodriguez is going to rely heavily on the running game. So the running back is probably more important in his offense than most offensive coaches in the country, just because he relies so heavily on that running attack. Doesn't mean he can't throw it. Doesn't mean he won't throw it. But the running game is going to have to be good in order for them to win football games. So Jaheim White is going to be key. And also, I talked about Jalen Knighton earlier. Jalen Knighton has had some injury issues. He actually missed most of last season with an injury. So can he stay healthy? Jaheim White has shown to be a pretty durable back throughout his career so far. So I think he has a better chance to stay healthy. And I think he's sort of the leader in the clubhouse as far as being the number 1 guy there for the Mountaineer program. Number 4 on my list, probably no surprise, but it's a cornerback, and it's Michael Coach Jr. Now, really, I guess you could put any cornerback on this list, but I use Michael Coach Jr. because he's arguably the top corner they got out of the portal this offseason. When you look at his production throughout his career at Nevada, he had an 87.6 coverage grade. 87.6. That's really, really good. That is fantastic, actually. When you look at how opposing quarterbacks did against him, 45.8% quarterback rating. That's right, not 45.8%, but 45.8 quarterback rating. Now, quarterback rating is not QBR. QBR and quarterback rating are 2 different things. Quarterback rating goes on a scale of 200. 45.8 is what opposing quarterbacks did against him. When you look at the entirety of the West Virginia football team, quarterback rating against them, 120.6. 120.6 QB rating against the entire West Virginia secondary. Aiden Garnes did the best in that category. at 80.2, but he only played in about half the games. He only played 171 snaps, whereas Michael Coach Jr. did it in 850 snaps. So a much larger sample size last year. He also allowed only 44.6% of receptions against him. Between the targets and the number of receptions he allowed, only 44.6. Best on West Virginia's roster last year was Dantes Fagan at 53.3, but again, did it in much fewer snaps, right around 300 snaps for Fagan. And as a team, West Virginia gave up 70% of their receptions. Think about that. 70% of the time a receiver was targeted for the Mountaineers, they got a reception. That is not good. You got somebody like Michael Coach Jr. who only gave up less than half. So that should make a huge difference. You've got a guy out there who's going to likely be a lockdown corner. Teams may not target his guy much, and when they do, he's going to have a really good chance to make a play on the football. Something that West Virginia has struggled at over the last several years under Neil Brown. So I picked Michael Coach Jr. because I think he probably has the highest upside of any of the guys in that room. Number 3 on the list is another position of need where West Virginia has had some struggles the last few years, and it's Jamoy Robinson, the bandit / edge rusher. Now, again, another guy who West Virginia had to go out and be aggressive and get out of the portal because he was very highly recruited. First team performer at UTSA. As a matter of fact, he was Defensive Player of the Year in the American Conference last year for UTSA. So a very, very highly productive player during his career. He rushed the passer 250 times last season at UTSA. And he had an 83.2 pass rush grade. Very, very good. 9 sacks, 33 QB hurries, and 98 total pressures. When you look at the entirety of the 2024 team for West Virginia, Tyron Bradley was arguably their best bandit. I don't think it's arguable. He was their best bandit last year. 73.1 PFF grade when it comes to pass rushing. Did it in 154 pass rushes, so much fewer rushes and a lower grade. Usually with a lower sample size, you got a chance to have a much higher grade, right? He had 20 total pressures, 2 sacks, and 17 hurries. Now, when you look at other players like West Virginia's team who had decent years, and look at their numbers, their other two top pass rushers on the West Virginia's team, obviously T.J. Jackson, who was a defensive end, 35 pressures on 304 rushing pass rushes, a 69.8 PFF grade, 6 sacks, 3 hits on the quarterback, and 26 total hurries. And then Sean Martin had 27 total QB hurries, 4 sacks, and 2 QB hits. So between those 3 players, you had a total of what? 9 sacks. Jamoy Robinson did that by himself at UTSA last year. Now, I know it's a different competition. I understand that. So I'm not trying to – it's not complete apples to apples. But at the end of the day, when you look statistically at his performance versus the rest of this WVU football team last year on the front and in that bandit position, they have got a guy who has the potential to be an elite pass rusher. An elite pass rusher is what West Virginia has lacked for several years now. They've not been able to cause enough chaos in the backfield. They've not been able to get enough hits on the quarterback. And most importantly, they've not been able to get enough sacks or force enough turnovers. How do you force turnovers? You get pressure on the quarterback, which can lead to interceptions by folks like the aforementioned Michael Coach Jr. and others. So I think it's going to be critical that Jamoy Robinson get to the opposing quarterbacks a lot in 2025 to help out his secondary and the rest of that defense. Something, again, West Virginia has struggled to do over the past several years. Hey, do me a favor. Go check out my good friends over at Appalachia Digital. If you need a brand new website for your small business, or if you're just looking to get found easier on Google, go check out appalachiadigital.com/Couz. These are the fine folks who designed my brand new website over at wvsportschat.com. They did a fantastic job. I love their work. I think you will too. So go check them out. appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know Couz sent you. Now let's get back to the show. Number two on my list, it's quarterback position. Nico Markiel and or Jalen Henderson. We're not sure which one's going to win the starting nod. My hunch is that Nico's going to win the job. However, it doesn't matter. And this one's pretty simple. Quarterback is arguably I don't even know if it's arguable the most important position on the football team, especially on the offense. So whoever wins that job is going to be critical to this team's success. West Virginia's quarterback play under Neil Brown has been inconsistent. It's been good, really good at times. It's been bad at times, and it's been mediocre at times. Between Austin Kendall, Jarrett Dagey, Garrett Green, Nico Marchiol, there's been some inconsistencies. But when you look at Rich Rodriguez's track record, he's had good quarterback play. Tyler Huff last year at Jack State, Pat White, Rasheed Marshall, Denard Robinson at Michigan, the quarterback he had at Arizona. His name is escaping me at the moment, but he had really good quarterback play there as well. All the years he had success, he had good quarterback play. So, and that includes not only throwing the ball, but rushing the football as well. So one of these guys will need to step up and perform in order for this football team to have a good and successful season and to compete. If they have any chance to compete for a conference title, whoever wins the job is going to have to step up. And heck, he may even have to rely on both of these guys at some point in the season, as much as he likes to run the quarterback. And number one on my list, it's an entire position group, and that's the offensive line. The reason I picked the offensive line is because this is probably the team or the position group on this team, to me, that has the most question marks. I mean, they are losing. Listen to this. They are losing over 12,000 career snaps on the offensive line. Over 12,000. Between the seniors that graduated, including Wyatt Milam, who went on the NFL and was a 4-year starter, and the guys who transferred out, like Tomas Rimac, who had been a 3-year starter, and some of your top backups like Johnny Williams, who left out in the portal as well. They were replacing the entire offensive line and most of the backups. I mean, the returning product, you've got Landon Livingston, who has played 86 snaps in his career. That's the most returning production from last year's team. They've brought in guys like Kimo Makaniole, 63 career snaps. Walter Youngbear, 1,116 career snaps at Tulsa. Tykeus Crawford, 693 career snaps at Arkansas. Josh A. Sosa, no snaps at Oklahoma, but was a highly recruited player out of high school. Malik Agbu, 170 snaps at Texas. Michael Clay, 1,138 career snaps at his previous stop. And then you've got Carson Lee, who actually had just committed. It was announced he committed to the Mountaineers right before I did this show. 1,124 career snaps at Eastern Michigan, who had committed to Mississippi State, went through the spring there, and has now entered the portal again to come to Morgantown. But overall, it's 4,364 snaps of experience so far on this 2025 team, compared to over 12,000 that have walked out the door. So you lost about 2/3 of your snaps, career snaps. It's not that this line can't be good. It's just we have no idea. We've not seen any of these people play in a Mountaineer uniform. We've not seen how well they gel together. And, you've got a new offensive line coach in Jack McNeil Jr., who has a solid track record. But again, how will it translate to this team, to this staff, and to this group of players? We have no idea. But if the offensive line is subpar or they underperform, could be a long year for that Mountaineer offense, regardless of how good your quarterback is, regardless of how good your running backs are, regardless of your receiver position, which, by the way, you notice I didn't list because I just don't think they're as critical to the success of the team as these other position groups. But it doesn't matter how good the rest of your offensive players are. If your offensive line cannot perform and can't block, you're not going to get yardage, period. End of discussion, end of story. And because there's such a huge question mark and so many unknowns at that position, I have them listed at number one. And I think, to me, if the offensive line for this team is good, it could be a really fun year in Morgantown. If they're not, it could be more mediocrity. I think they're that important to this team and the success of the team. I want to hear what you think. Is there anybody I left off the list? Should I have included a wide receiver like Cam Vaughn? But to me, when you've got a coach who's known to run the football a lot more than he passes it, I just think the running game, the running attack takes precedence. You've got a running quarterback. You've got good running backs. Not that you don't need a good receiver, and not that they don't have any. I just don't think they're as critical to the team winning football games. I think as long as you've got a decent receiving room and receiving core, just to give you a little bit of balance, I don't think they have to be as good. Whereas I think positions like running back, quarterback, and O-line need to be better. And obviously on defense, you've got to have a legit pass rusher, and you've got to have a legit corner who can cover in man coverage. and make plays on the football. Michael Coach Jr. can do that. So, but let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree with me and there should have been other players listed. I want to hear what you think of my list. Also, want to give a shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode: Shaq, Browns and Beers, Crispy, OO, WVU Earl, and Shannon Miller. Thank you all for your support. If you want to support me and be a VIP member, you can hit the join button below if you see it. If you don't see it, go to my channel homepage. There's a join button right beside my profile photo. It's an easy way to support what I'm doing here, help me keep the lights on. You can also support me by hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with your family and friends, letting them know about Couz's Corner. Anyone who likes West Virginia Mountaineer sports, this is the go-to channel for them. Going to be covering all West Virginia Mountaineer football and basketball here on the channel. Also want to give another quick shout out to my sponsors, Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, and Appalachia Digital. Thanks to them also for helping support what I do. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. I want to thank you for tuning into the show. God bless. Q Country Roads.